Hello, everybody. I'm Cody Pattison, sports reporter for the Newcastle News, filling in for sports editor Ron Pawnee-Waz. And as always, I'm joined by Larry Kelly. Larry is a member of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George Law Firm, who sponsors this award-winning Gridiron podcast. Larry, they're letting the inmate run the asylum tonight, so thanks for joining me.
Well, listen, my man, you're filling in for the first team, but this could be a George Gipp, Lou Gehrig story. You remember George Gipp missed one game, and Wally Pipp, I think was the dude's name. Wally Pipp, he missed one game. Lou Gehrig stepped in, and that was it. So, listen, Pawnee-Waz, he might be gone. This could be it for him.
He might get got to turn off the razzle dazzle, and he'll be back.
Yeah, no, George Gipp played for Notre Dame. I'm thinking of Wally Pipp, man, the first baseman for the New York Yankees before Lou Gehrig stepped in and played consecutively for the next 15 years. So welcome, Cody. Glad to have you, brother.
Thanks. Well, Larry, we've got a lot of football to recap from around Lawrence County, and we'll get into more of that on our next segment with our Athlete of the Week. I think you'll like this choice, Larry, and it's coming up next on Gridiron. All right.
Did he pass for 179 and run for 105 last week, Cody? I think that was your discussion.
Yeah, right? Yeah. He had
scored 3 touchdowns, scored all 3 TDs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
He put in that final drive, and I think right now we'll talk a little bit more about him leading second in the county still for rushing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I'll start it back up for Athlete of the Week. 3, 2, 1. And we're back here again on the Gridiron with Larry Kelly. Larry, we're going to talk about our Athlete of the Week this week, Newcastle High's Marino Graham. Marino Graham, a freshman, helped guide the Red Hurricanes to an 18-12 Whitfield Class 4A Parkway Conference victory over Aliquippa for the first time since 1987. Larry, I'm a little young. 1987, was that a good year?
Well, you weren't even born in 87, were you?
No, I was a concept.
Yeah. Let me think about this for a while. I think that was the George H.W. Bush administration. That's how long ago 1987 was. And I was a young lawyer that didn't have any gray hair in 1987. So it was a great win for the Red Hurricane. But, man, did you make a good pick for Athlete of the Week. I've been waiting for my man Marino Graham to be named because this young man is the real deal. None other than Mark Mangino, the former head coach of the University of Kansas, National Coach of the Year, said to me that before he's done, Marino Graham will make Newcastle fans forget all other quarterbacks that ever played the position for the Red Hurricane. And, baby, that's high praise because there have been some great ones that played at Newcastle. I can think of Ricky Sumner and Chuck Fiorani, and that's just to name a few. So this kid's special, and he had a special night, and that's what it takes to beat Aliquippa.
Yeah, he was 9 of 18 in the air for 179 yards, 17 carries for 105 on Friday. Right now, he's still, like you said, a freshman, but he's over 500 rushing yards. He's second leading rusher in the county, and he's right behind, I believe it's Wilmington's Chase Mitchell-Tree. Just talk a little bit about being young and having a young guy lead the team, but also be poised and, continue to put up great records like that.
Marino's poised beyond his years. And I know this because I got a glimpse of him last year when he was a basketball player at Newcastle. I watched him play. I watched him practice. He's the brother of Michael Graham, who was a great player at Newcastle High School. So he kind of had an older brother to look up to who had a great basketball career at Newcastle. It's one thing to be good. It's another thing to be good and poised. And when you're the quarterback of a football team and you're playing the Quips from Aliquippa, you can't panic. The moment can't be too big for you. And it looks like Marino Graham will be one of those players that throughout his career, the bigger the moment, the better he's going to get. And, Cody, I've won a few championships in my day. It wasn't about me. It was about the players, but it was always about players who the bigger the moment, the better they got.
That big moment Marino had, that final drive there to punch in that game-winning touchdown. They left 25 seconds left in regulation there. He showed that poise that you mentioned right there on that final drive.
Yes, but it's a team effort, and I don't know that there's ever a sport that's more of a team effort than football.
Right.
He got some tough guys around him. Jaden Schaefer, he was an all-conference lineman last year. DJ Gordon, Mason Cook. These guys are tough. Chase Lemon. These guys are tough. They're all basketball players, so I know these guys really well. Quaylen Davis. So if you were to ask Marino, and I know you did a great job of covering the game. He would have given credit to all of those guys, because without everybody standing tall, that victory is not going to happen. And the one statistic that always steps up for me, the first thing I look at before we do this show is who controlled the line of scrimmage. And in years past, Aliquippa would outrush Newcastle 5-1, maybe some years more. But Newcastle, they held their own at the line of scrimmage. They outrushed them 207-194. They held their own at the line of scrimmage. The defense stood tall when they needed to. Great win for Newcastle. Great win, great choice, Marino Graham. And it just was a special night. You were there. I understand that the Red Hurricane faithful, that they were out in abundance on Friday night. Tell me a little bit about I couldn't be there. Tell me about the fans that night.
Yeah, the crowd was great. There, a lot of people in the stands. There were some spots here and there, but they had concessions and stuff going on too. And yeah, you were on the edge of your seat that whole game from start to finish. Here with Newcastle High's Marino Graham. Marino is our athlete of the week. He was over 200 yards offensively in the air and on the ground. 3 touchdowns provided. Marino in an 18-12 Parkway Conference win over Aliquippa. Just talk about that win and recap that.
I think it was a really big win for us, for this program. A big confidence booster for us throughout the season. Really think if we lock in that we could really do it. And we're not here just to beat Aliquippa, though. We're here to win championships and be a good football team.
That final drive. Talk about that final drive to punch that one in.
It was really a good drive. There was when it was 3rd and 12, I didn't think we were going to do it, but, the team made it happen. Chase got open, and then I knew we were scoring. As soon as he caught that ball, I knew we were scoring a touchdown.
Offensive line, what can you say about them in that game?
The line really stepped up, Yeah, they've been working all week. Yeah, they really stepped up, and they were a big part of the game. They made me run like that.
All right.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other. Be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
And we're back here with Larry Kelly on the Gridiron Podcast. And Larry, it's time for the Red Hurricane Minute. Maybe we go a little bit more in detail about this Newcastle victory.
It was a great win. Again, we haven't beaten them since 1987. Aliquippa's Aliquippa. They're the gold standard of WPIAL football. So when you can come back and come home with a win against the Quips, you're playing good football. However, there's a few things that we need to clean up here. Obviously, 15 penalties for 92 yards. You just can't do that. And I know Coach Mazaka, I think, made a statement to you as part of his post-game statement following the game. He doesn't need Larry Kelly to tell him that. You can't beat yourself. You got to be, any team I've ever coached, there was 2 things that I always wanted out of my team. I wanted mental toughness, okay, meaning that through the ebbs and flows of the game, you're going to stay mentally strong. But at the same time, I want laser focus. And sometimes these penalties are due to a lack of focus, pre-snap penalties or a block in the back that's unnecessary. So we need to clean that up. And if we're going to be WPIAL champs, which is certainly within our grasp, we need to start making some extra points, Cody. Against a good team, you got to convert the extra points. You just got to. Coach Mo, you got to go find somebody that can kick an extra point. It's just got to happen. because, in a close game, in a one-possession game, that extra point could make the difference. And against a good team, and that's who we're going to be playing. We got Montour on Friday. We got West Allegheny following that. Converting 2-point conversions is really difficult. So let's make some extra points. Let's find a way to get that done. Let's tighten up a little bit of the penalties that we're having. And other than that, everything is on the right track for the Red Hurricane. They got Montour this week. Now, Montour's starting a young quarterback. Coach Mangino's a lawyer in my office, Matt Mangino, and he said it's a young quarterback at Montour, which kind of gives Newcastle the edge, because even though we have a young quarterback, he plays like a senior. So, the next 2 weeks are going to define where we're at and where we're going. So I'm excited to see it.
Back-to-back home games. It was a little different last year, Larry. They had to go on the road to face Aliquippa and Montour. Now you take that momentum boost of an Aliquippa win over them and you put that into against Montour. How big of a momentum boost is that? I think Matt Millen once said, it's the great equalizer. Are you confident because you're winning, or are you winning because you're confident?
It goes hand in hand, but there's an old axiom that my dad taught me a long time ago. Nothing succeeds like success. And I don't know that we've won a bigger football game since we won the Whippeal Championship in 1998 when we beat North Allegheny at Three River Stadium. So confidence boost is enormous. But again, you got young men who are used to winning. Again, 5 or 6 of these young men played basketball, and they're used to winning. They played in the Whippeal Championship last year. They're confident in their abilities. They know what it's like to play in the biggest games. They're able to focus and be mentally tough through the ebbs and flows of a game, because most of these guys have been there before. Kai Cox, one of the best hoopers, I think he was MVP in the section last year. He's a big-time player, who's been in big games. And, Chase Lemon was big for us last year. And as I said, Jaden Schaefer, Quaylen Davis, DJ Gordon, Mr., who's Jermaine Walker. These guys all played with us last year. And if I'm missing somebody, I apologize. So they've been through the gauntlet. They've been in the high-pressure games. And I think that will bode well for these young men moving forward.
Yeah, I think Coach Mo mentioned to me that I think maybe one kid didn't play basketball and football. Everybody else was on the basketball roster.
Yeah. And so they know what success is like.
Mm-hmm.
They've played in the big games. We played in the Whippeal Championship game last year. And, Marino Graham wasn't there because he was an 8th grader. But Kai Cox, Chase Lemon, they were a big part of our team last year. Mason Cook, DJ Gordon, Jaden Schaefer, Quaylen Davis. These guys are all going to be a big part of the team this year moving forward. So they have pedigree. They know what it's like to win, and they know how to win. So I think that goes hand in hand. If you have success in one sport, there's no reason you can't have it in another. And Coach Mo and his staff is doing a great job, man. I sent him a text. I sent Matt Mangino a text after the game. I was one happy Red Hurricane on Friday night, brother.
All right. Well, that's the Red Hurricane Minute, and we're going to recap the other Lawrence County football games that happened last week when we come back on Gridiron.
We all know there's an advantage to playing at home, to being the home team. At LGKG, we've been your home team personal injury attorneys for auto accident and workers' compensation cases for over 90 years. We know what works and how to win. We have all the credentials. At LGKG, we don't take every case. We handpick our clients so that we can give you the attention you deserve.
Hello, everybody. We're back on the Gridiron podcast. I'm here with Larry Kelly. Larry, we're going to recap the other games that happened around the county last week. Obviously, we'll just start in alphabetical order and work our way down. We'll start with Elwood City. The Wolverines they dropped the 14-12 MAC Conference road decision against New Brighton. Turnovers was a big thing that escalated that game to them losing. Any thoughts about Elwood City and where they're standing right now?
They're playing good football, but again, it comes down to controlling the line of scrimmage, Cody, in a football game. They got outrushed by New Brighton 169-79. Now, you add the turnovers into that, and you're not going to win very many football games. It was a game they could have won, but again, in football, and I don't care what level, you got to control the line of scrimmage. They didn't do it, and that's one of the reasons they got beat. But that was a good football team, and I expect them to be back.
Yeah, they are tied with conference play with Riverside and Beaver Falls right now. They're 2-1 in the MAC and 3-3 overall. And next week, this Friday, they're taking on Western Beaver, who's leading the MAC right now, undefeated in conference, 3-0. They're averaging Western Beaver 40.8 points a game and allowing 12.3. You flip side of that, Larry, Elwood's averaging 19.3 points a game and giving up 18.6. What do the Wolverines need to do to knock off Western Beaver?
Well, they better control the line of scrimmage. And, that's a really telling statistic in any sport is point differential. In baseball, it's run differential. In football, it's point differential. And Western Beaver has it rolling, obviously, putting up a lot of points and not allowing very many to be scored against them. So, Elwood, they better come ready to play. Where is that game next week?
Next week, I believe they are. I would have to double check here. I don't know if they're on the road or not. I didn't get that in my notes.
I got a feeling that they might be. Elwood might be on the road next week. But anyway, it's a big game.
Yeah. Laurel, the Spartans stormed a 50-0 win over Northgate there to remain in the conference contingent. They're 2-0 in conference, 5-1 overall. Colton Carlson continues to put up offensive yards, and he's a really key component of the Spartans this year. 103 rushing yards. Nate Hill had 85. Colton Carlson's also a great kicker for the Spartans there. Larry, your thoughts on the Laurel Spartans so far?
Colton Carlson does everything for them. He probably sells popcorn at halftime. And he's been doing it all year, both as a receiver and a runner. He's the real deal. And again, Laurel controlled the line of scrimmage. They've done that in just about every game they've played this year, with the exception they got beat by one of the Bishop Cannon, I think, out of Pittsburgh. And again, when you play those schools, you just never know what you're going to see. So the Spartans got it on a roll. They're good, Ron. They're good, Cody. They're really good.
Yeah, Laurel will take on Summit Academy Friday, 7 p.m., obviously. And then let's talk about a county clash. Mohawk snapped a 4-game losing streak that's really mired them, especially after that heartbreaking loss a week prior at 8-6, missing a field goal. They defeated Union. Obviously good to get a little bit of life in your conference contingent there. Union now is still unable to find a win this season.
The statistics for that game were not available in the Newcastle News. But I would guess that Mohawk probably controlled the line of scrimmage, and then you got the Bobby Fadden factor. This young man can throw, he can run, he is one of the best athletes in the county, if not the best. I mean, he plays every sport, and he's really good at every one of them. And so nice win for Mohawk, and Union is struggling this year. Their numbers are down. Coach Needballer knows how to coach. We know that. When he had the horses, he won the Whippeal Championship. But at a small school, it's just tough every year. It's not a reload like it is at some of the bigger schools. So, Union, I expect will be back. If not this year, then next.
Yeah, you mentioned Bobby Fadden. He did post a little over 200 offensive yards total to get that team back in the win column. 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns. Like Colton Carlson, he can do it all essentially, and it's always good. Every time I talk to Coach McCutcheon, he just goes, "I'm just glad he's playing for my team."
He's a great athlete, and in every sport, it's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, and it's golf. My man does it all. He's been doing it all. I've been watching him since he was actually in 8th grade. I think he played against my 9th grade team at Newcastle. Maybe the last year I coached the 9th grade team at Newcastle. I think he put up about 35 against us on one day. So he's a great athlete.
Mohawk will travel to New Brighton to take them on, and Union goes up against Beaver Falls. Another county clash we had, Larry. Neshannock was able to defeat the Shenango Wildcats 48-7. Lancers just gave up only 76 yards of total offense against Shenango.
Line of scrimmage, Cody. Neshannock ran it for 339 yards and Shenango for 69. So, I always say, if you got the right guys blocking, you and I can run the ball. It's always about the guys up front, the offensive and defensive linemen, who a lot of times in high school go both ways. You got to control the line of scrimmage, and Neshannock did that on Friday night.
Obviously, the Lancers are now 2-0 in conference, 4-1 overall. Shenango is 1-2 in the conference play and 2-4 overall. I found it interesting. You get another look at a young freshman quarterback of Caleb McConnell for Shenango, and it seems like they're going to start building around that young man. But you also got the present of Gino Mazzocco going up against him. This is the present and the future.
Yeah, Gino's been around a long time. He's a senior this year. He's the real deal. He's had some great games from the Neshannock, and I believe he's been a starter since his sophomore year, maybe even his freshman year. So, and it's tough. In my experience, and again, I've coached baseball and basketball. In my experience, with rare exception, do freshmen and sophomores beat juniors and seniors at the high school level? Rare exception. It happens once in a while. But you better have a special group of freshmen and sophomores if you're going to be upperclassmen at the high school level.
Neshannock will entertain Burgettstown Friday at 7 p.m. That's a non-conference match, and it'll be a pink out to recognize the 2004 graduate Brian Shorbach, who is battling breast cancer. And the Wildcats are going to take on Rochester on Friday in an away game. Rochester has yet to find a win this season.
Yeah. So hopefully Shenango can bounce back, and I'm sure it'll be a great turnout at Neshannock on a special night.
And last but not least is Wilmington. Wilmington, in a classic rivalry against Farrell, got dropped 44-7 in a loss, District 10 Region 1. Steelers held Wilmington's run game, their bread and butter, to just 113 yards, dropped the Greyhounds to 0-1 and 4-2 overall. What was that we were saying earlier, line of scrimmage?
Farrell ran it for 264. You can search long and hard to find a game where the Wilmington Greyhounds got out rushed 2-1, but it happened in this game. And that doesn't happen very often. And when you can hold down Chase Mitchell-Tree, who, like Bobby Fadden and Gino Mazzocco, one of the best athletes in the county, when you can hold him down, you've done your work, and you've done good work when that happens, because he's the real deal. But it just wasn't Wilmington's night. You got to be able to control that line of scrimmage, Cody. And Farrell held the edge that night, 264-113.
Farrell ties it now with Reynolds in region standings, and Saturday's game will be for Wilmington this Saturday at 7 p.m. They have the Greyhounds have a shot at Reynolds. What do you do to bounce back after that loss?
Well, you look at the film, you see where you can get better. The key in any sport, whether it be basketball, which I'm more familiar with, and baseball, which I'm more familiar with, but in football, you want to get incrementally better every week. Every week. You don't need to be your best in September. You need to be your best in October and November, because that's when you're getting into playoff time. So, look at the film, what happened? Why did it happen? How can we fix it? Do we have to make some adjustments positionally, maybe with some of the players that we have? Do we have to change the way we align our defense, make changes there? But Coach Fillion, he's won a few games, I think, out there in Wilmington. He knows what to do. He certainly doesn't need my advice, so he knows how to coach him up.
Yeah, I was going to follow that up and say after you got done there that, I think Coach Fillion will have him a quick turnaround. Don't worry about that. I know
This isn't his first rodeo, so, he's seen the movie before. He knows how they end.
All right. Well, that's our recap of county games. I think we're going to call it for this special episode of the Gridiron Podcast. Larry, thanks for joining me.
Cody, I'm going to give you an A+, baby. And remember Wally Pipp. He took one day off because he wasn't feeling well, and Lou Gehrig played every game for the next 15 years. So Pawnee Waz better be back in the action next week, or that might be it. He might be Wally pipped.
Well, we'll see if he does get back. But all right, thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Cody. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right.
But I got to be honest, I enjoyed listening to Pat and Eric. I laughed my butt off, man.
Now, a message from Larry Kelly, where he gets to talk about a topic of his choice. Here's Larry Kelly.
Can I get your Larry Kelly's thoughts on the president coming back, the GM coming back, and the manager coming back of the Pittsburgh Pirates?
Well, I like Donnie Kelly. He's a Western PA guy, and I think he'll do a good job. But it's all about the players, Pete. It's always about the players. I won a Whippeal championship in baseball at Shenango High School, and I can tell you it had very little to do with Larry Kelly. I had great players. And they're bringing the GM back. I'll leave you with this. The definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing and expect a different result.